Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I'm excited today, as I am every episode, but maybe a little bit more today. No, I can't say that. I love all my guests. It's kind of like saying, which one's your favorite kid? You can't do that. You know what I mean? Or which one's your favorite golden girl? I get that a lot. You know, you can't do that. You can't have a favorite with something so important. But our guest lineup this year on the Hitstreak has been unbelievable, and we're keeping the streak rolling today, folks. Check it out. All right, this dude is the owner of Premier Performance Training. He is a 3-time best-selling author. His brand new book, The Mental Reps Method, came out May 1 of 2024. I've got a copy of the book on the desk with me for those of you watching with us today. Folks, check it out. Some of his high-profile clientele includes former Tennessee Titan Michael Archie, Bruce Matthews, Hall of Famer, right? Emmanuel Hall, another NFL receiver, and Brent Snedker, a top PGA golfer. Folks, he has been featured in Franklin Lifestyle magazine. He has been voted one of Nashville's top personal trainers, and his gym has been voted best in the community 3 out of the last 4 years. It's unbelievable. The man, the myth, the legend. Aaron Hines is in the building. How we doing, baby?
Dude, I'm pumped. I've been listening to this podcast for probably 6 months, and here we are. I've got my name on the wall with all these other legendary people who I think I thought would never get a chance and opportunity, but here we are. It's kind of a dream.
Absolutely, baby. We got lots to talk about, don't we?
We do.
So first of all, folks, when you're looking at him, you're like, God, that guy's good looking. You know what I'm saying? If you're watching with us today, that's what you see.
This is natural.
I'm just telling you. The first time I met Aaron was on he joined one of our community Zoom calls that we do for personal branding, and I started looking at his stuff, and he was just extremely memorable. And I thought, well, if he's that memorable, he's got to be good at what he does. And the more I learned, the better it got. You know what I'm saying? So Aaron, it's seriously great to be here today. Folks, premierperformancetrainer.com is where you can find him online, as well as on Instagram at premierperformancetn, right? So dude, We got a lot to get into today.
We do. Let's roll with it, because we might be here for 2 hours.
You never know. You never know. Well, dude, we're going to get right into it. And I got to know, dude, we're going to debunk a myth right out of the gates right now. Okay, so I mentioned some of your clientele. All right, and we mentioned that they were, these are the best athletes in the world in their sport. Right. And ironically, you know, it kind of like leads into what your core client is in the 50 plus community, because I guess Bruce Matthews and those guys are in that age range nowadays.
Yeah.
But like, seriously, dude, what is the biggest myth that we're going to debunk right now about the 50 plus population? Because I know that is your bread and butter.
Yeah. So I would say the biggest thing that fires me up is people who don't think they can lift heavier weights than the 15s or 20s for that 50 and up population. I've got clients who are 50 going on 60 lifting 30-pound bench press, or even hitting PRs on different lifts. So that's the biggest thing that kind of grinds me, as far as like people coming in not wanting to lift heavy. Because as we get older, your strength and everything goes not to the pits. It's if you don't use it, you lose it type mentality. And that's where we get to where you have to do something in order to be stronger for longevity and lifespan.
No doubt, man. You know, it's kind of like an automobile. If it sits forever and then you go out to drive it pretty hard, it's probably gonna, good things won't happen.
I'll say the wheels will fall off, and that's where I think some of the things are. Some people I work with who have been sitting sedentary for so long, and they're like, they want to ease into it, and I say easing into it is great. Well, we got to turn it up a little bit. You've got to, go from a Pinto to a Porsche every now and then, and get the results you want. We can't just sit here in low mode for the next, 2 years.
A man's life are what his thoughts make of it, right? So the most you think you can do is the most you think you can do until you think you can do more.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one thing I look for, or kind of show people, is I don't tell them the weight they're lifting, because typically that's the mindset of I can't, and I want them to know that I will be able to do it, and I can do it. So a lot of times it's, we'll put the 135 on the bar and not tell the client what they're lifting, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I lifted it. And I'm like, well, see, there you are. Dude, told you.
That reminds me of that clip we watched when we were on that phone call literally yesterday, and about from the amazing football movie where he put the guy down. He was blindfolded, and he probably wouldn't have went the whole distance of the field with that death crawl if he knew where he was. You know what I mean? That was the whole catch. Is he just kept on going, and he did something that he didn't even know that he could do. It was incredible.
Yeah, that was great. And I think it's just a lot of, for most, it's just self-limiting beliefs of like they don't know what they can do until you push them a little bit further. And I think that's kind of my job. As a trainer, gym owner, we're going to push people to their capabilities and a little bit beyond, because I know what they can do, but a lot of times they don't know what they can do.
All right, let's talk about this book that's sitting right here with me. And thank you for that, by the way. It's The Mental Reps Method, Mastering Mind and Muscle for Optimal Performance. If you're watching with us, you can see it right here. Just came out May 1. All right, so let's talk about the premise of this book right here and why everybody needs to get it.
Yeah, so it's basically set forth for your student athletes and their parents. I've been working with sports performance side of it outside of the older population for probably the last 15 years. And what I've kind of come to consider is kids are weak mentally, emotionally, maybe physically. I don't know if that's kind of pre-COVID, post-COVID. With that, there's a lot of excuses that I hear on a daily basis. So this is kind of a game plan and a more of a script that they can go back to fight and overcome some of those objections they get from whether it's a coach, whether it's from a teammate, or whoever it may be. Maybe it's a teacher for that. Not telling them they're not good enough or they're never gonna amount to something in life. I think that's the biggest thing that I hear with kids, and it's my job to present to them, obviously the book, but a plan of like, you can do anything you want to, as long as you put your mind to it and you have a plan of action. A lot of times we're just, kind of shooting in the dark and we don't really know what we want to do, but if we can use that simple, it's super simple, but if you can use a simple plan of action, you can get a lot further in life and on the football field or whatever sport you play.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. And, that's something that everybody, whether they're into fitness or not, can benefit from. You know what I mean? That's a great message, and something that, you got to remind yourself every single day. You got to feed these things. And, all these things, confidence is a skill, right? Like believing in yourself is a skill. I've got a little quote right here that I heard from Dan Pena on a podcast with Brad Lee. He said, "Self-esteem is the basis of accomplishment."
I mean, that's gold, because a lot of people I work with don't have a self-esteem or confidence. That's the biggest thing we're working through, to get them where they need to be, right? It's right. The I can't attitude to the I can or I will. That's kind of what I approach it. And so that's what's helpful for them.
When people ask me, if I can do something that I can't right then, the answer is never no. It's always not yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best thing to say, because if you say I can't, it's a good conversation to have. And asking them why they think they can't, and they usually don't have a good answer for it. I was with a kid the other day. He's like, I don't think I can't be the starter next year on my basketball team. And I looked him in the eyes and said, why can't you be the starter? Well, this kid's been starting for the last 3 years ahead of me. I said, great. I said, take his job and then ask him if he wants it back, because you're not going to give it back to him.
That's right. That's right. I love telling the story about Wally Pipp. You know who Wally Pipp is?
I don't know. No.
All right. So, do you know who a guy named Lou Gehrig is?
Yes.
All right. So, Wally Pipp was the first baseman for the New York Yankees, and he took a day off. And his backup was a guy named Lou Gehrig, who went into play for Wally Pipp. Wally Pipp never played first base for the New York Yankees ever again, because Lou Gehrig played like the next 2,100 games in a row.
Yeah, snooze, you lose there.
That's right. That's right. I love that story, the story of Wally Pipp. And it's obviously he was a great player. It's a shame that's what he's remembered for. But, dude, it just goes to show you, man, like you never know who's coming right behind you that wants it more than you do, is willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, I agree. You always have to be ready, and that's what I try to tell, the kids themselves, because it's always you never know when your name's going to be called or when you're going to be the first man up, and you got to be ready. You don't want to make excuses, because excuses, as I say a lot, and I use this with my kids sometimes, maybe it's a little too much, but you've got a little bit of a loser mentality. We don't want that. We want to be winners, and how we're going to win, we're going to change that mindset to know that we can be ready for anything, anytime, anywhere.
Dude, and so we met through the Brand Accelerator Mastermind, which is basically it's a free virtual event that the Hit Lab puts on once a month. And we've had some crazy guests on that sucker, right? So like
Yeah.
we've had how awesome was you were on the one that Bradley joined us on, weren't you?
I actually had to turn my video off because I was laughing so hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just on the one-liners, but also like I don't want to be that guy busting out when my when I was unmuted or whatnot. So
That's right.
yeah, I mean, top-notch guest from him to I think John Mediana.
Dr. Justin Mosley, Brian Covey was a great one too, man. That one was fantastic, and so many other ones. We've got Big Sean Kaplan is booked for the one in June, and like
Yeah.
it just goes on and on. Coach Michael Burt was the guest one. We had one at the Greatness Factory, which was cool.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like what's some of the biggest things you've gotten out of that Brand Accelerator Mastermind, Aaron?
I think the biggest thing is just like being surrounded or just being around people who have done bigger and better things, knowing that what's capable. For me, it's thinking bigger, not small. That's kind of where I struggle with as mindset, being a small business owner. I don't think I can be there, but being around, and hearing other stories of where they started and where they are now. I mean, it kind of gives you a little bit of hope of anything's possible as long as you kind of keep your head down and stay the course. Maybe short, maybe longer than you expect, but you just kind of have to grind it out and get from point A to point B.
So you said in the beginning, it was like, you're around people that have accomplished, big things. And like, do you think the reason that it really comes down to it, because I think this is really a big problem that you solve, especially for that 50 plus community, is like, are we focusing on the things that we can't do, or are we focusing on the things that we should do or would do? And I find as a baseball coach myself, and especially in our young entrepreneurs that we help, that they spend a lot of time focusing on things they can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a lot of brain power, a lot of subconscious programming that is happening in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I think that's what kind of slows us down a little bit too, because it's we're not focusing on the trajectory of where we're going, and I think that's a lot of times with my clientele, we're always like, well, I can't do this, this, and this, so we're going to have to settle for this. In reality, we can do a lot more than you think you can based around your limitations. And I think that sometimes it's more of being more of a coach to them. There a lot of them could be my grandparents or even my parents' age for that. So give them a little bit more understanding of we can get you to where you need to be without having to do all these other things that you can't do. Let's focus on the can, not the can't.
Absolutely. And I mentioned before when I first met you that you were very memorable, right? Well, what was memorable was very few people can have with the design on your sweatshirt, it's not your face, but it's like what's that called? That like it's not your whole face, like there's no eyeballs, there's some key piece missing, but it's you. What would that what's that called? I can't remember.
Maybe a silhouette or an outline. I've been mistaken for other people's, I guess, dads or Santa Claus, even for some for some people. But it's just more. It's what I am and who I am. So it's more of when you see it, you recognize it. Man, quick story. I was at Disney and this guy wore one of my shirts, and this dude goes, "Hey man, is that you? Is that you on your shirt?" I said, "Yeah, it is." I said, I should have had one in my bag to give him. That would have been even better.
That's right. Well, dude, it stuck out to me. Like it was very noticeable. And when I saw it, whoever did it did an outstanding job. Right. So it's like the quality is fantastic. I don't even know, that could have been by accident. That could have been on purpose. But dude, it does. It looks just like you. Like exactly who it is when you see it. And I think it's freaking awesome. Not many people could be known by like a caricature silhouette.
Yeah, and it was actually a funny story. It was a rebrand. I rebranded in 48 hours, and a buddy of mine actually sent it to me, and I was like, dude, this is golden. I don't want you to change anything. I basically called him on a Friday, and we had it on Monday.
Well, dude, it's again, it stood out to me. It was something that I thought was extremely memorable, and I was like, dude, like that's a brand, that's a package, like that's something that not only would people remember, but like it kind of draws you into it. It's cool, man. It just fits right in with everything going on in the world today. Like it works. It just works.
Solid. Well, it's memorable for some, and then if I have to shave my beard, then I guess I have to change the logo, right?
We ain't doing it. We ain't doing it, right? You're stuck with it, baby. So, because I have that conversation about my hair all the time. I'm wearing a hat today, which is rare, but like that's one of the things that I get talked about the most is the hair. And let me tell you, it would be a lot less work if it was shorter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I talk about that with my wife all the time. Like, I feel like I just want to kind of just chop it all off and enjoy the summer. And it's always like, dude, you can't do that. Like, you know what I mean? That's what too many people know.
Yeah, well, it's probably a little bit of a shock and awe for people too. I've shaved my beard almost all the way off, and I had the most. It was a hesitation reaction from a client. She turned around. I turned around at the same time, and she was in shock, and she almost left the gym because she didn't recognize me.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
how bad it was. So that's never happened again.
I can remember when I was a child, my dad had a big old handlebar mustache. And that when my sister was like 2 or 3 years old, about my daughter's age, maybe a little bit older, he shaved it off. And that was like the first time that we'd really seen him without it, and she was just young enough that it kind of freaked her out a little bit. She didn't recognize him. And then when she realized who it was, she was like, shave it back on, shave it back on. But it's crazy how how those things make such a big difference, folks. Everything that you wear, again, what is it that people remember about you? And when they remember those things about you, is it good or bad?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be the brand 24/7. Even I'll say, even with that, it's hard for me not to. Even when I'm at church, that's probably the only time you never see me in a Premier Performance logoed shirt or hat. Which some people have seen me there and know exactly who I am and what I do just based on seeing it around town or whatnot. So that's hard, but it also you have to be on it 24/7.
No doubt. No doubt. I want to thank all of our loyal fans that spread across all 50 states and 14 different countries. It's absolutely amazing. Folks, help us keep spreading the word, right? Share your favorite episodes with friends and make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Thanks again, and we look forward to more. All right, well, let's take them back just a little bit. So how'd you get into the world of personal training, right? And more importantly, starting your own business. So I've got here in my notes, how did you go from getting fired to building a successful personal training business?
Well, it's kind of started back in 2013. I worked for one of the larger orthopedic clinics in town, and that's kind of where I got my start, kind of where I'm at now, working with a lot of pre and post-op training. Things I didn't know coming out of graduate school. The biggest thing I didn't know what I wanted to do or who I wanted to train. And so a lot of that was an eye-opening experience coming out of graduate school. I thought I had everything in a row. I've trained all the, perfect people and I was going to have a huge business. And I came to find out like I didn't know as much as I thought I did for that. So 3 years into that, we kind of mutually parted ways. A nice way of putting that. And then I started training at a gym here in Franklin. It was a apartment complex, and I built my clientele from 2 clients now, 8 years and 1 month or 2 months into it now, to I have almost 90 clients at my facility in Brentwood. So a lot of hard work, sleepless nights, a lot of stress.
Congratulations, dude.
But yeah, appreciate it. So it's just a lot of those things that I thought I knew. Almost went out of business 2 years into it. Because I didn't really know what I was doing. I'm a more of a exercise scientist kind of background and no business experience, nothing. Right. I didn't have an accountant. I didn't have a bookkeeper. I didn't have anything. I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants for that. So, kind of now I've got a few things to work on, but
that's right.
Other than that, I mean, that's kind of what's led me to being the orthopedic guy in town.
How grateful are you for all those mistakes that you made and the lessons that you learned?
Man, I'm forever grateful for those. There's a lot of stress from that and just things that I didn't know. But if those things weren't to happen, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Right.
I'd probably be back in a corporate setting at a computer, to be honest with you.
No way.
That was kind of a thought at one time. It's like, well, I didn't save enough for taxes. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. But all those things combined, it made me stronger. It made me better. Maybe a better business person, better father, better spouse, just because I was overcoming a lot of adversity during that time.
Well, good for you for not settling or tolerating anything less than what you're doing right now, because I think that's the definition of someone's standard. It's what they tolerate. You know what I mean? And like, it would have been super easy to just fall back into something else safe. But like, again, how damaging would that be to you, your purpose, and your soul? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that would have been, super, super rough, but also it's one of those things since 2010, I've already set forth, before graduate school, I was going to own my own gym. And no matter what it took, however much it took or what it, I didn't want to like burn any bridges with anybody, but I was going to do whatever it took to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went through a lot of, I call it dead end jobs, things I didn't like, but here we are. And I see this thing probably taking off. It's probably just the start of what I've got going on here in Brentwood.
No doubt. Well, I think it was when I found out who your targets were, and I want to let folks know, like you specialize in the 50 plus community, but like you've got some big announcements that are just coming out. It's the end of the school year when we're shooting this today. And, you've got some guys that are moving on to the next level in their sports, right? So like, it's not all 50 plus, but like that's your target market. But let's talk about some of those younger cats and what they've accomplished.
Yeah, man. One of my first clients, Emmanuel Hall, he was one of the first kids I ever worked with back in 2013. He was a big-time receiver at Centennial High School, went on to play. He was a SEC top receiver there at Missouri, University of Missouri. For that, he went on and had a short career in the NFL, but, injuries happen and those things are not expected or, you never know what's going to come of it. So now he sells high-end real estate downtown Nashville. So I feel like I did my part. I coached him. I got him where he needed to be, and now he's successful. So
that's right. He needs to be on your podcast when you have one.
Yeah. So I mean, he's a good dude. I've got a lot of. I've trained 3-time national champion swimmers. We've had a PGA Tour pro. I've got here in the last probably week, we had a few more college commits. We had the HVAC middle school golf champ. We had the HVAC baseball champ, one of the players on the baseball team, Lipscomb Academy. I've got a couple guys, West Georgia, starting a linebacker. He was a standout here in Williamson County. I've had 2 of the probably different counties, but defensive player of the years. The list goes on, man. So there's a lot of good athletes in town, and I just think for me, it's more about I can coach you to be a better person and a better athlete and a better person in the community. I've done a good job.
Dude, it's hard. When the folks listening may be like, man, with all those athletes crushing all those accolades, like, why is it that the 50 plus community is the target, But I mean, there's like, first of all, I feel like everybody's chasing the athlete. Not everybody is saying, hey, look, like you that it's on the second half of life. And, literally like I'm 43 years old. And even though I'm, in really, really like really good shape to be like, I'm not far off from where I was when I was playing, you know what I mean? But like my body's only like my abilities are they're falling away. You know what I mean? Like I'm on the other side. So, my body is not procreating. I guess it's starting to dissolve away a little bit, little by little. And it's only going to get worse the longer I go,
Yeah. So, I mean, there's always going to be athletes there. And that sounds like, there's a lot of athletes. There's a lot of athletes, good athletes and athletes that want to be great. But for me, it's more or less like, who can I serve and who can I serve to make the biggest impact in the community? And there's the 45 and 50 and up. And I get a lot of times like, you're not even 50. How do you even know? It's like, those are people who I'm getting to that point, but they're also to the point where my parents' age, my grandparents' age, and they need somebody to teach them, tell them, make sure they're doing things properly. And hope for the best really as far as getting them stronger, more mobile, because as we age, things decrease. Your strength decreases, your flexibility, your mobility, your cardiovascular activity.
That's what I was poorly saying.
Yeah. So like, if you, like, it's back to what I said before, if you don't use it, you lose it. So it's like, how long are you going to sit around until you have to sit up or get up from a couch, use both your hands, rock into it, and then walk to the refrigerator, be short of breath until you get help. And so that's where we come in at Premier Performance and, changing lives on the daily, man.
You literally like light a spark to reignite, these people's purpose. And, as a trainer, those would be the people that I would want to work with the most because they have the most life experience. They got the most knowledge. They're probably the most successful. You know what I mean? Like they've already accomplished most of the great things in business, and maybe maybe some of them are even leaning towards retirement or they are retired. Like, dude, that's where the knowledge is.
Well, it's you learn, not only you're teaching them how to do things in the gym, but you're also, like you said, getting knowledge based on, okay, how many businesses have you had? When did you start? Well, some didn't have success until they were mid-40s, and now they're, millionaires or whatever, however you want to say that. They've got a lot of more than I think I'll ever have, but it's good to know that they're able to help me more mentally, talk about life, different experiences and things like that, that it's helpful for me not only as their trainer, but also they know about my family too.
No doubt. What are some of the biggest losses and wins that you've experienced as a business owner over the years? Let's start with what are the biggest things you overcame?
Biggest thing was probably during COVID. I shut down. I transitioned. I was renting space at the time, and it was kind of one of those, you don't really know what's going on. So I had to actually jump ship. I had to rent my equipment out to my clients and transitioning 90% of my training to my garage, which was about 30 minutes away. And I offered clients half price training sessions because, we couldn't go in the gym. We couldn't do a lot of things. So I did a little pivot. I offered that plus online training. And that's kind of where I survived. And now I'm thriving for that. So I think that's one of the harder things. And the second hardest thing was paying a $25,000 tax bill when I was trying to save up money to start my kind of next phase. So I rented and then I sublet. So I sublet for 2 years after the place I was at before kind of went under. So those are the two biggest probably or toughest things I've dealt with. But,
go on about that tax bill. I want to know more about that. What was that all about?
Yeah, so that was I'm kind of a tightwad when it comes to money and finances. That's kind of where I've always been. Even when I was a kid mowing lawns, I always had cash in my pocket because I knew I didn't know. I always knew I always had it. So when somebody asked for it, I was like, yeah, I got it. You don't. So you need to be a little bit better with your money. So I was saving up to buy equipment, to get ready for all the fees and financing that it needed to, start the utilities, whatever I needed, because I didn't know. This was all new to me and I want to be prepared. And I was overly prepared and should have spent a lot of that money before January 1. So when my accountant calls me and says, hey man, you owe $25,600, I literally my jaw dropped and I
You're
was like,
fired.
I was like, I need somebody else. Who is this guy with that? And I was like, dude, you got to be kidding me, right? And I literally was like, woke up and was like, this has got to be a dream. I had to, wipe my eyes out and figure out is this real? And it was real. And that was probably the biggest mistake I've ever made is not being prepared and not paying enough attention to what I needed to pay and how much to pay for that. So ever since then, I mean, he's been my accountant ever since. And, every time I'm like, dude, seriously? But it's been helpful to have a plan of action. I think that's the biggest thing I didn't have. I was kind of winging it for that. But kind of back to the biggest success. I mean, I've gone from renting to subletting now. I signed a 5-year lease in my brick and mortar business. I'm in there a year already. It's kind of flown by. Right off General George Patton in Brentwood. So that's kind of the biggest success
location
for that.
Good location.
Yeah, it's super convenient. I always say we're right in the middle of Costco and Urban Market. So you can get your feel of both of those and come by the gym and we'll take care of you.
Sensuous. Sensuous over there.
Yes. So that's probably my biggest for that over the last 8 years. So, I would say this another side note. My goal for that gym is to be the mayor of fitness in Williamson County. And what that means to me for that is when you think fitness, you think weight loss, you think 50 and older or sports performance, you think premier performance training.
All right. So we're going to nip that in the butt right now. So you got, you want to be called, what is it again? The
Mayor of Fitness.
The Mayor of Fitness in Williamson County. All right. So here's how this goes. Are you ready? So if that's what you want to be called, then you have to tell everybody that that's how you're introduced. All right. So folks, help me welcome the Mayor of Fitness in Williamson County, Aaron Hines. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how it works, dude. If you're the king, you have to tell them I'm the king, and then they let you know they call you the king afterwards.
Yeah.
Right. So if that's what you want to be, then dude, from now on, when you introduce yourself, I'm serious.
Okay.
I'm the mayor of fitness in Williamson County. I'm Aaron Hines, and people will start to the more you say it. First of all, you'll continue to believe it.
Yeah.
But people will remember it, and then they'll actually start to do it.
Okay.
I promise.
What's on my bio, or on my Instagram bio, so that's where.
That's right, and it needs to be on all these books as well as you're rocking and rolling too, right? So I'm excited to get into this sucker. This is probably one of the next books my son reads as well. He reads a book we pay him to read.
I think it's good.
We pay them to read. So is that one good for a 14 going on 15-year-old right there?
I think it's perfect. The ideal client or ideal person to read that is a kid aged 10 to 18. So it's perfect for any athlete that can read. It's basic, but it's to the point for that. And I think that's what kids need, direct, but not too detailed for that.
Absolutely.
The Hitstreak is powered by our partners at HitLab Creative Studios. Whether it's launching your brand new podcast, rebranding your current podcast, or taking advantage of any of their other content packages specifically for your social media needs, the HitLab is a one-stop shop for you. Visit hitlabstudio.com for more.
All right. So you have been you were a former college athlete. So what sports did you play?
I played football. I played at Lambuth University in Jackson, Tennessee. So I was there for 2 years, offensive line. I came in at a probably center position, and I quickly realized that that wasn't the position I was going to play. I needed to know center, guard, and tackle on both sides, weak side, strong side. So that was a little overwhelming for me, but it was a good experience for what I needed to be a college athlete. And kind of check the box on that. The 1% to 2% of athletes who go on to college play sports are a college athlete. So I think that's a big accomplishment as well, as far as that. Not the best high school athlete, but definitely a college athlete.
Well, good enough to move on to the next level, and good enough's good enough sometimes, ain't it?
Yeah, it's perfect. I mean, good is good, right?
That's right. Well, dude, I think it's important that we mention that because, I was always told you don't trust a skinny chef. You know what I mean? If they're not eating their own stuff, I'm always telling the team here at the Hit Lab, guys, we got to practice what we preach, man. If it works so well, we got to do it. We got to do all the things that we advise our clients to do. We got to lead by example, lead from the front. And it would be hard, I think, for you to accomplish. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's got to be a lot easier with the experience that you had. Because again, you got to work with world-class trainers as well as a college athlete. So there's a lot you learned about what worked well for you, what didn't work well for you, how you made transitions, and how they communicate with you. And I think that the coaches that I had along the way were some of the made some of the biggest impacts on my life today.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And actually, our strength coach was a former player. He was one of those players. I think he came from South Carolina. That was the story I was told. And I was a little intimidated of him because he said he got in a fight with Lou Holtz, and here he was, NAIA football. And I never went against him because he didn't like freshmen, and he let it known that he was going to basically destroy your body. And I always had to take a step back. But he ended up being our strength coach and probably one of the best transformations that I had as a college athlete, from as far as a physical appearance and just strength-wise.
It's such an important thing that they do in sports, and it's hard to really do that in the business world, at least legally. Find people's breaking points, because like that is what you do. We're always pushing ourselves. We're always pushing others to grow, and growth hurts. That's why they call them growing pains. But like, dude, like all the greatest programs on earth are like, they want to find where their guys' breaking points are. And it's usually the guys that can absorb the most before they do break, if they break, are usually the champions. It's not necessarily how great you are. It's really what you can take.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's just how much you can take and how much you can overcome for that. And a lot of it was, I think for me, it was getting up at that 5 a.m. workout I say every day, but it was at least for 2 weeks straight. For that, and our coach is former military guy, bringing the heat every workout, and I'm just like, dude, I could quit right now and things would be a lot better, but if I overcome this right now, I may have a chance to start. Who knows? Maybe I sit the bench more, but at least I know that I didn't give up. And I think for me, that was probably the biggest thing of overcoming that and just being a better athlete overall.
And I think that, that leads right into how great of an example, for folks that are wanting to grow and improve on any aspect of their life. A lot of times you may not, because you fear what other people the opinions they may form of whatever it is you're doing, or, failing in public may be something that doesn't tickle your fancy. But, when it comes to your physicality, that's just between you and those weights, man. And I love, I actually don't like working out every day. It hurts. Like my body physically hurts. Just warming up and stretching is like the worst part of my day. You know what I mean? But when I'm done, dude, I'm invincible. When I'm done, it's like I've already kicked the days behind and I haven't even started. You know what I mean? So like I love that win, that victory that happens first thing, get it out of the way, and it's like, dude, let's rock and roll. Now I'm ready. You know, I've taken some hits, my skin's tough. I'm ready, baby. What you got, life? Bring it.
Yeah, I think that's just another challenge, a daily challenge that you have to kind of deal with. And it's easy for me to just say, no, I'm not going to do it. Like you work out in the morning, I go after work, and there's days, man, I sit there for 20 minutes contemplating if I'm going to get through this, I'm going to walk out the door.
I did that last night. As a matter of fact, I worked out super late last night, and I did it. I waited probably 20 minutes to get started. I was going back and forth, like, you know, it's already 9:30. I'll be back out here in like 10 hours, you know. So if I just did this one tomorrow, I negotiated with myself over and over again. And if I decided, screw it, I'm just going to knock it out. I'm going to win the day. And that way, because again, my whole schedule with all those things, I got to travel to Vegas for a keynote later this week and whatnot. So that with the travel and all those things, if I didn't do what I did yesterday, it threw off the whole regimen for everything else that had been planned for the rest of the week. You know what I'm saying? So like, dude, negotiating with yourself is like the moment you can figure out that you don't want to do that, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. And going back to the 50 plus community, you know, a lot of times in life, they've accomplished what they wanted to accomplish and they're kind of riding off into the sunset a little bit. But like, I would rather look at that sunset for a very long time rather than a short time. I don't want to work my butt off for decades and then not enjoy it when I'm done. I want to enjoy it as long as I can. You know what I mean? So like, I think that's so important what you're doing for the 50 plus community, dude, because it's making them charge forward. It's making them charge forward.
Yeah, where they're active enough to where they can travel and they're not just sitting at home. I mean, I just got a lady just got back from Italy. She comes twice a week. She might be, I don't say she's my oldest because I don't know for sure how old she is. It's hard to ask a lady her age. That's just offensive. I think she's in her mid 70s.
I got a trick for that. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So anytime I'm asking a question, because when I used to interview people to become a health insurance agent, I had to make a whole lot of decisions about that person because we invested heavily, blindly on the front end. And I had to make a whole lot of decisions about that person to make sure that they were a good investment. So like I asked the most personal questions you could, like really like almost like hello, and then right into it.
Right.
So what was fair is I would always preface it with, hey dude, any question I'm going to ask you, I'll tell you the answer I'll give you my answer before I ask you that. Right. So I'm 43. How old are you?
38.
That worked every time. Worked every time. I weigh 182. What do you weigh? Like, so that just makes it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, it's a perfect is not I'll say offensive for that, but for her, she works out because she's a widow now, 2, it's community, and 3, she wants to travel. So if she's not traveling at 80, you know, maybe I've done a bad job setting her up for that, but that's what she wants to do. And that's why she trains. And that's what my passion to help her get to where she can travel at least once a month or once every month and go there for 10 days, come back and be ready to rock and roll.
Good for her, man. I asked my mom a couple years ago, I said, Mom, write down, my mom's not a big traveler. She likes to stay close. And it would make my life to be able to I told her, I was like, dude, this world is huge. You know, you've only seen a fraction of 1% of the world, you know, even this town in the last 10 years. And it's like, write the 5 places that if money wasn't an object, you weren't scared to fly, you weren't scared to fly over the ocean. If you could get there, where would you go visit? You know, like those 5 places that are bucket lists, and I'm still waiting on that list, Mom. I got to get that from you. But like, you know, I want to take her there. I think it'd be great, you know, because we've never really done anything like that before. And there's places that I hadn't seen, you know, Greece, Jerusalem, Rome, like anything. I've only been to North and South America, you know, and I think my mom's only been to maybe Tennessee and Florida. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like, you know, she might just say the Grand Canyon is their bucket list. Hey man, let's go. You know, but I want to take her there. I think what you're doing for that young lady that you just mentioned is important, dude. Sometimes it's hard when you get older and you feel like, you know, especially if you had a big purpose in your profession or, you know, with being a parent, being a wife, to all of a sudden have all those people not need you anymore. that's probably a pretty common struggle. I would say you do as much for them mentally as you do physically. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I mean, I would say even today, I said I'm probably the cheapest therapist you'll ever get because we talk about everything. I mean, it's not there's no limit of what we talk about, and that's one because I want them to know me as much as I know them because it's personal training. We're there all the time. I see my clients sometimes more than I see my family, and I know that sounds crazy, but they know a lot about me. Some have been with me since I didn't have kids. I struggled with fertility to where I've got 2 kids now, and they know almost every single thing about me, from my parents to my brothers to everything. So that's why I think it works is you've got to know more about them as much as they know about you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to talk about, we've talked about this book a little bit. I want to talk about your other 2 as well. But when I kind of see out there, especially like this photo that the team put together here on, you can see all my notes that I'm taking when we're talking, right? But I think that's just a heck of a picture. It's really, really good. That's one that will live on for a very long time. I see that picture, that guy right there. I see him on stages, man. I see that guy helping a lot of people. I feel like, your energy is kind of contagious. And like, for me, you're one of the Hit Lab's newest clients, and we're very proud of our clients. We're extremely picky about who we work with. And dude, the reason that we wanted to work with you is because, others can see something about you that you hadn't seen yet. And it's going to be awesome to watch you start to be able to see what others can see in you. Somebody told me that years ago about myself. And they're like, Nick, one of these days you're going to look in the mirror and see who we all see. And I was like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, tell me more.
But dude, there's just, when you see that picture right there, that guy it's interesting. It's interesting. And there's a vibe. There's just a vibe. And we got to get that out there. And but again, confidence is a skill, right? And confidence is basically just the memory of previous success, right? So, what I've found is the most confident people remember their previous success the most frequently. You know what I mean? And that's what one of the things that we really want to do here is build that confidence when you're in situations like we're doing today and anytime you're on camera, because I believe that the more the world gets of Aaron Hines, I feel like you're just going to make people feel better. And that feeling will lead to personal growth, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree with that. Just getting it out there more, but also being more confident.
Well, let's talk about the first 2 books, right? So this is the third of 3. And by the way, as an author, becoming an author takes some sack, man. You know what I mean? You're dude, and it ain't easy. And you're self-published. Dude, this ain't no small thing, right? So what made you decide to write one book and then once you did it and figured out how hard it was, what made you do it again and again?
Yeah. So the first book, so that's the 4th actually of so 2 that I wrote myself. 2 were co-authored with some other fit pros from the U.S. and around the globe. So the first book took me probably 2 years because my writing is terrible. I always had to send my papers to my mom to get proofread in college, and
thanks, Mom.
Yeah, the rest is appreciate that, Mom, for that. So 2 years of basically I wrote 2 books in one. So I had to figure out what I wanted to really talk about. So the first book I wrote was called The Athletic Advantage. And that's basically the athletic advantage is how I try to coach my athletes to, one, be more successful, but also, overcome those things that we talked about. So there's 10 chapters in that first book that talk about athlete successes. And there's one, biggest chapter in the book is dedicated to a kid I trained who unfortunately passed away on his way home from a workout, which is kind of near and dear to my heart for that. But that was the biggest reason I wrote that, to show that you can be a successful athlete if you try more than the next kid beside you or the next kid in the dugout. Because a lot of times I think we get to where people will tell us we get cut from a team, and what usually happens? Well, I don't really know. I don't know why I got cut. I don't know what I need to do to get better. Well, you've got to ask questions to know what the coach told you. And if the coach doesn't tell you why you got cut, he's a bad coach, in my opinion.
But you got to ask him.
You've got to ask him. And if he doesn't have a good reason, then maybe we need to reevaluate what team we're going to be on. For that. So there's stories of success in the first book for that, and all of that proceeds for that went to charity, the Eli Grove Foundation, who I support each and every year in honor of his legacy. He was a football player at Tullahoma High School for that. And the next two are geared towards just adults. There's each chapter, it's kind of a flip through book where it's kind of a cool setup where you don't have to read it thoroughly all the way through. You can pick and choose what you want to read to get other people's perspectives on health and fitness, from the 40 and up to nutrition to whatever floats your boat as far as the contents of that book goes. So it's a good mix.
And all of them are available on Amazon, right?
They're all on Amazon. Yep.
All on Amazon. They could probably links on your website as well.
They are. There's on the main page. You can kind of scroll through the featured section there, and they're on there.
PremierPerformanceTrainer.com. That's the URL, right?
That is. Yep.
The Hit Streak is powered by Team Hyder. Team Hyder has been serving you for 11 years and has racked up over 20 national and local awards for excellence in all areas. When it comes to finding the right health plan, we need to consider your family's needs and your family's budget. That's what we do to serve you. To look further and to book an appointment, visit teamhyder.com.
That's book number 4, right? So, how many are there going to be? Do you know? Have you figured that out yet? Like, what comes next in your journey, man?
I think I have children's books kind of planned out, and it's kind of, I'm using my kids. My kids is kind of the story plot on like how to get into fitness as young athletes or just kids in general. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there of like when you can start training or why you should start training. So just using them as, I think I'm using it more of a superhero type book. Using my kids' names.
I love that, dude.
For that, because they look at me like a local celebrity. My son the other day, I got home with the Amazon package, and I was kind of just flipping the book around, and my oldest goes, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, it's Dad's new book." And my youngest looked at my wife and went, "Dad's famous, isn't he?" And I said, "You darn skippy, son. Dad's famous all over."
That's right.
For that. So that's where we're at now. And then just for the growth of the business, I mean, it's just growing from here on out, from hiring and expansion in a way where I can maximize what I have available, but then eventually go to the online platform as far as training goes. We already do that. We just I don't advertise it.
Well, that's what we're working on together, is getting more exposure, right?
Yes.
But the good kind of exposure, not the kind that gets you arrested, right?
Yeah, we don't want to end up on Scoop, whatever the site is.
That's right. You got to, people can't work with you if they can't find you. You know what I mean? And again, it's a beautiful thing who you are called to help the most, because I feel like in the world that you're in the fitness industry, they're probably the most, and again, not saying there ain't a lot of people that offer in those things, but they're probably the least attractive of clients, the least sought after when it comes to flying new clients. You know what I mean?
I agree. I think that's because they're not very flashy. And I say, don't be offended if you're 45 or 50 and you feel like, well, I'm a showboat in the gym. It's just, they're the ones that take the most patience. And, my wife may say, you don't have much patience, which I do with this population, because I appreciate the fact they're very receptive to what I bring to the table, but they also appreciate it probably 10 times more than people my age who are 30 and below.
And I think it's a brilliant business move, because they're the most financially qualified.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And they're the most reliable, because they don't have young kids that get sick. Or anything like that. I think it's super smart business model, man.
That's straight facts on that. I tried that before and it failed miserably, because when the summertime hits and the parents of kids are MIA for 3 months, you're having to like reprogram and get things back in order when they get back. So these people travel. I say you pay to play. They don't pause. They travel. They know they're coming back, and they appreciate the fact that you still have their spot readily available when they get back.
So, I know that you are in your scaling, bringing on a lot of trainers is in your future, right? So, and you didn't know I was going to ask you this question, all right? So, buckle up, baby.
Let's go.
All right, why would somebody that wants to get in your industry, why would they want to work with you? Because I know I would want to work with you, but what are those, what's the benefits of working with you? Not just from they make some money, but all the proximity is the most important thing. And I think that not only does the client tell you got awesome, but you're awesome. What are some things that, because you're recruiting trainers right now, so why should people want to work with you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just the experience I have. It's not just in the experience related to what I do can be kind of translated in a way, be taught. Some of this can be taught. Some of it is based on being in that environment. And I think being in the environment that we have at Premier Performance Training is it's different, and you're not going to get that from a lot of different gyms in town. And so from my experience of being in the corporate, I've worked at the Y, I've been a health coach, I've worked in clinical settings, I've been in the ER, I've been in all these other areas, but it's all related. But if you can take some of those, small experiences and wins from those and apply that to what I have, I think that trainer itself will know more from working with me than they will any certification. I'll say any certification. There's a lot of them that are waste, right? You're paying $1,500 and you're like, what? I bought 2 for $1,200 and I didn't even read it. I just took the test and passed it. So that tells you you've got more experience and application with me than you do paying for a certification online.
All right. So you said 2 things that I just absolutely love. And like, dude, these are 2 book titles. They could be a podcast. They could be signature keynotes. You said 2 really powerful things that like stand out, that like, I'm glad we did this episode today, because we're going to be focusing on those big time when we, in a lot of the content shoots and stuff that we're putting on together moving forward. Right. So the 2 things it's called personal training, and you put the personal in personal training. I'd never heard that before. And that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I don't know who I heard that from, but
dude, let's elaborate on that for a minute. All right. So why is that so important? Right? Because and the team and I talk about this a lot. Let me preface that question a little bit. When you're like, to truly help people, you have to know them to a certain degree to be able to actually help them past the surface. Dude, anybody can scratch the surface.
Yeah.
That don't interest me. I like,
boring.
We got to go past that. Absolutely. These are human beings, man. God only made one of them, 100% unique. So like, I want to know those people because I truly want to help them. Now, I also understand that relationships, there's some time required.
Yeah.
And that communication and effort is 2 directions. Okay. So putting the personal in personal training, what does that actually mean to you?
I think for me, it's asking the right questions for those clients to get to know them on more of a non-surface level. Because, if we think about training as transactional, you only care about your name, probably how much you make, where you work, and where you live. And for me, it's more to that, because if I always like to tell people, it's personalized in a way that it's for you. And if we can get personal on that level, one, you're going to know personally, you're going to know me probably more than you want to know. But I think that it kind of breaks the wall or some of those barriers between you and that client for that, because sometimes people are, it's hesitation. You're spending money to work with me. Somebody, you have no idea who I am and what I do. But if I can get those questions asked and be pretty direct, but also know more about what you've done, where you've lived, how many kids you have, how many grandkids you have. Do your grandkids play sports? Do they not play sports? Well, what do they do? What interests you? That way I can carry on a conversation, and that 1 hour workout feels like 30 minutes.
Dude, it's so important, like, to actually get to know people, to make an impact on their life and whatnot. And it's, again, people don't always remember what you said, but they remember how what you said made them feel. And I think that was why I was drawn to you the first time, is because, again, the whole package with the caricature silhouette, honestly, you've got this courage about you where it's kind of not nonchalant, but it's kind of like, it's courageous, but it's also like not. It's like this perfect blend of the 2 where like it's almost like you're a little bit nervous, but you're willing to jump in anyways. And that's so cool because it reminds me a lot of myself. You know what I mean? And I feel like just you make people feel a certain way. There's just a vibe about it, dude. And that's your uniqueness, man. That is, not that you're not great at what you do, but like, again, they'll forget half of what you tell them.
Yeah, for sure.
But they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Yep. I agree with that 100%. It's like the kid you haven't seen, or the kid I trained probably 7 years ago, who calls me and says, hey coach, I'm going to come by the gym. I'm like, what are you coming by the gym for? He goes, I just want to come say, hey, I got a new job and I appreciate you. Like that means more to me than, the money on the table, to be honest with you.
Man.
Impact over the dollars.
Impact over income. That's old Nick Alfano right there. Impact over income. That's right. And then you said something else. I said it was two things. The athletic advantage. All right. So I want to get your take on that. What is the athletic advantage when it comes to what you do?
Yeah. So I named that name, or that title of that book comes from the athletic performance side of what we do. For what I experienced, this life experience based on my college or my high school experience, what I didn't have access to, what I did to overcome the limitations or access. Because I think for me, it was more, I had to drive 45 minutes to come to Williamson County to go to like a D1 or somewhere for sports performance. Well, I didn't want to do that. So I just said, we're going to do training at the old stinky field house, and I'm going to run laps with a soccer player. So it's the experiences I have and I went through, and people I kind of pushed away.
Yeah.
Not to be, that guy or be a jerk. It's just what I needed to do to get to the next level. And I think that right there is what I teach and coach to the athletes that I work with. And I think for some of them, it's like, they look at you like, it's probably like my kids are like, dude, you're crazy. You have no idea what you're talking to. You went to some no-name school what doesn't even exist. You're a wash up. But I said, look, if you would just listen and apply one thing 1 month at a time or 1 week at a time, you're probably going to be a lot better than you think you can be.
That's right.
For that. So that's where that kind of comes, the athletic advantage for that. So it's more of my experience as a, I would say, not a washout, but an average high school athlete to a college athlete.
That's right. Well, dude, I agree with you, and I think athletes do have a lot of advantages in the workplace, just because, dude, again, it's not going back to my favorite Rocky Balboa quote. It's not how hard you can hit; it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Like, that is sports, man. Like, you lose a lot, you fail a lot. And you got to keep moving forward, especially in the game of baseball, dude. There's people making, $30 and $40 million a year that offensively fail 70% of the time or more. Like, it's crazy, but like, to be able to do that and have the right mindset, not let it crush you, So I'm a big believer in sports, especially as a parent, or something that gives the lessons that sports would, So, because again, life's hard. It's extremely hard. And the purpose of me being a parent is to prepare my kids for life when they go out and live theirs. You know what I'm saying? And that's basically what you're doing for these people.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with that. It's what can I give back that I experienced. So it's the experience of injury, being third string, whatever it may be, but you're just trying to apply those things. If I were to quit, who knows where I'd be right now? Because it's when my business was about to go under, or I had to pay that $25,000 tax, it was probably easy just to say, screw this, I'm going to go do something else.
That's right.
But I paid it, and here we are. I mean, I'm moving forward each day, and each kind of adversity or block that I had to overcome.
That's right.
For that, and I think sports is good for that.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Well, all right. So I want you to speak to the person. All right, directly to the person that's listening to this right now, and they're thinking, I should reach out to him. I should do something. But maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. That person, you know who they are. You deal with them all the time. You get to speak to them right now, right? And folks, I would encourage you, if this is you, mark the spot in this episode and play it back over and over and over again and take actions, right? So, Aaron, they need to take action. Help them take action.
Yeah, my biggest thing is, what are you waiting for? You're going to wait for tomorrow, you're going to wait for next week, and you're just going to be a week or 2 weeks behind. So it's better to start today than to wait.
And wait's a 4-letter word. Wait is a 4-letter word. And it's just like I told you when we were talking about doing business together. It was like, dude, it's not a matter of if you're going to do it, it's a matter of when. But we can both agree, if it takes you, let's say 2 weeks to start, that means you delayed your finish by 2 weeks. If it takes you 2 months, you delayed it by 2 months. If you start today, we do not delay that. Wait is a 4-letter word. Take action. You got to take action.
I think that's the biggest thing that people, I would say the biggest thing or the heaviest thing you're going to lift in my gym is going to be that front door, because you think this is intimidating, but once you walk in and get to know me, I mean, we're right at home together. It's like,
Boom.
pull up a chair, let's go. I'm gonna get you from point A to point B. It's just a matter of how committed you are to get there.
Dude, I couldn't think of a better way to bring this sucker to a close. Aaron, any final words to everybody out there?
I think the final thing is just more or less of like, you've got to start somewhere. So you might as well find somebody to help you get started. Because once you do, you probably won't regret it.
That's powerful. Well, dude, the sky's the limit. You are the worst you're going to be for the rest of your life right now. That's got to feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Because I am too. We all are, if we want to be. You know, it's only uphill, or it's only uphill from here, man. You know what I mean? It ain't downhill, it's uphill.
Yeah, for sure.
Personal development is work. And it's time to get to work, dude. It's time to get to work.
The Hit Streak is powered by Rack Financial. When it comes to your credit card merchant processing, Rack Financial is efficient, reliable, and trusted. At the end of the day, when it comes to processing your credit card payments, they make it simple, the way it's supposed to be. Check out Rack Financial.
Folks, we're hanging out with 4-time author, 3-time best-selling author, Aaron Hines, the owner of Premier Performance Training, the mayor. What is it? Say it again.
Was it the mayor of fitness in Brentwood, Tennessee?
The mayor of fitness in Brentwood, Tennessee, coming to a county near you. Right on. So can you only work with people in Nashville, or can you do any virtual stuff? Like, I want to make sure that's understood.
Yeah. So if you're not local, I do We're online training. So we've got clients in Memphis, Florida, Nashville, just those who can't make it to the gym. I mean, all we have to do is set up the old Zoom or the FaceTime consult, and then the rest is history from there. So as long as you're committed and you can follow a plan of action, anybody can work with us.
No excuses, man. He's putting the personal in personal training, baby. The mayor of fitness in Brentwood, Tennessee. Is that I get it right?
That's perfect.
That's what I'm
sounds
talking
better
about.
every time you say it.
That's what I'm talking about. Well, folks, been hanging out with Aaron Hines. Dude, thanks so much for joining us today, brother. It's been a pleasure.
Man, I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Well, folks, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of The Hit Streak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.